Good morning. I'm Harley Schlanger from the LaRouche Organization with your daily video update for December 26th, 2024. Well, there's some news on the diplomatic front, some of it expected, some of it pointing toward a prosperous and peaceful future. Let's start with the expected one. The Hungarian President Viktor Orban proposed after meetings with Zelensky and Russia's President Putin that there be a Christmas truce. He made this offer on December 11th. Not surprisingly, Zelensky rejected it. Instead, Ukraine is now receiving loans based on the interest on $300 billion in frozen Russian assets. These are stolen assets, assets seized by Western banks from Russian accounts and held till now when the decision was made to use them as the basis for loans to Ukraine. The U.S. provided the first $1 billion. In fact, the U.S. Treasury has deposited $20 billion into a World Bank fund. And this fund then provided the $1 billion that was just given to Ukraine. Japan and the United Kingdom also have loaned $1 billion to Ukraine from the World Bank fund based on guarantees backed by Russian frozen assets. The spokesman for President Putin, Dmitry Peskov, said, quote, "This money has been stolen from us," unquote. And he said these actions are, quote, "contrary to all norms and rules and are therefore illegal," unquote. Well, how could that be? Isn't the United States the guardian of the rules-based order? Is there not a rule against seizing assets deposited in foreign banks? Well, apparently not in Antony Blinken's idea of the rules-based order. Now, while this thievery is going on, which of course is adding to the death toll in the war in Ukraine, there have been positive developments emerging on the diplomatic front. Let's start with what happened yesterday between China and Japan. Last month, in the opening of the port in Peru, China's President Xi Jinping met with Japan's Prime Minister Ishiba. This was at the opening of the megaport that is going to be providing transportation to Asia from South America. Now, at that meeting, they had what was called a friendly discussion, and it led to a trip yesterday to Beijing by Japan's Foreign Minister Takeshi Iwaya. So he was there to follow up the meeting. Now, keep in mind, Japan is a prime target for the recruitment to the global NATO Asian side of things. And Japan had been indicating its willingness to do that. However, it seems as though something has changed now. The meeting was included a call for people-to-people diplomacy, cultural exchange, and was seen by both countries as a very positive development after years of potential confrontation. The statements from both sides were very optimistic, and this follows in the wake of the attempt to have a rapprochement between China and India, where the leaders of those countries reached an agreement to peacefully resolve the border tensions that have been plaguing both countries for a number of years. Now, there's a further development, and by the way, keep in mind both China and India are leaders in the BRICS. Now, there's one other example of this kind of diplomacy, and that was the scheduled opening in March of a rail link to transport goods between Moscow and Islamabad in Pakistan. The opening of the eastern branch of what's called the International North-South Transport Corridor would provide a 7,200-kilometer multi-mode transit system connecting rail, ships, and road routes for moving cargo between India, Iran, Azerbaijan, Russia, Central Asia, and even Europe. This is the kind of deal that is typified by what is going on in the BRICS, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. This is what President Putin is referring to when he talks about a new Eurasian security alliance, which is cemented by expanded trade and cooperation. the advancement of corridors of development between nations. This new one, when it opens in March, will expand Russian trade with Pakistan, as has Russia's trade with India increased. Remember, India was also targeted by Blinken and others to be pulled out of the BRICS. And instead, we see the consolidation of these agreements based on the idea of win-win cooperation, that these nations are working to expand trade and cultural ties. Pakistan has applied for membership in the BRICS with support from Russia. So let's take a step back and contrast these moves of China with Japan, China, India, Russia with Pakistan, with the blatant thievery of Russian assets by the United States and its allies to buy lethal weapons to kill Ukrainians and Russians. Why are the Anglo-Americans doing this? And this gets to the whole question of what is the nature of geopolitics. The idea going back to the beginning of the 20th century was to keep Asia and Europe apart, to allow for the control of trade and finance of trade, port construction, connectivity, to keep that in the hands of the British Royal Navy and out of the hands of continental powers. And that's why we have these proliferation of wars, to pit these nations against each other rather than engaging in cooperative economic development. The idea of the BRICS, and through work with the Belt and Road Initiative as an example, is to establish a just system of fair trade which benefits all partners in trade, no longer favoring the imperial powers who have the military might to enforce their will. So I would urge you, in the spirit of the season, to join us in fighting to get the transatlantic nations on the right side of history. That is, to say no to war and yes to diplomacy. This is a crucial need for the coming year, where these hotspots may continue to blow up. So I ask you to join me today, where I'll have a webcast dialogue with Helga Zepp-LaRouche. It's our weekly dialogue. It will be at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and the link is in the description section. If you can't make it live, it will be archived. But if you want to ask your questions or offer comments to Helga, this is your opportunity to do so. And then on Friday, there will be another one of the International Peace Coalition meetings. We'll have a link for that for you tomorrow. So thanks for joining me. Happy holidays, and I'll see you again tomorrow.